Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for all your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From mock drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy Guns never fail. What's up, fantasy football fans? My name is JT Magnum. Welcome to week 4 of the Stardom Sid'em Show here along with Siggy Guns. And we are ready for week 4. And real quick, I want to get into some of the things that before the week. Number one, we are a DraftKings partner and affiliate. Feel free to join our DraftKings league. The lobbies weren't filled last week, but it could be filled this week if you'd like. I'll make them 10 to 15 man lobbies or a little bit less, so that way people can get in there and join. They're only like $1. It's only like $5 to join DraftKings in general. $1 to play the games against us. Okay. Number 2, if you want interested in sleeper picks or sleepers and waiver wires. Number 1, the sleepers are on the website. They'll be on the website as of today. And as you're watching this, basically after you watch this, you'll be able to see that on the website. And then on top of that, the waiver wire show. I did an actual waiver wire show yesterday. That should be already up on YouTube. Feel free to watch that if you want to know your week 4 waiver wire picks. And number 4, starts and sits for all the new subscribers. First of all, thank you for subscribing to us. And second of all, I have to reiterate a lot of times what starts and sits are. We don't talk about a lot of the big names. Sometimes we do. We slip up and we talk about big names here and there, like the first round picks basically. But sometimes you just had no choice because there's not much players to think about or maybe not much going on. But most of all, when we say that we don't discuss the big name players such as, I'm trying to think real quick, a Dez Bryant or Cam Newton, the reason why we don't mention them in starts, I just want to mention this right quick. It's starts we're talking about. In sits, we feel like we can mention them because it's hard and rare that you're going to sit a stud, and very often we do mention big name players in the sits list because we're bold enough to mention them because we know that sometimes they will get shut down. Not every stud is going to have a great game every week in the NFL, unless you're Antonio Brown, who just seems to never stop having great games. But still, the point is, we don't mention the studs mostly in the starts, but we do mention them in the sits. So when you see that and when you hear that, that's what we do. That's what we're about, and that's how we try to help you guys. So moving on, let's get into it. Let's get into the stardom portion. Siggy, who's your 3 starts of the week at quarterback?
Blake Bortles, Joe Flacco, and Kirk Cousins. And I'm going to talk about Kirk Cousins. He's playing Cleveland. He's been bad, but I got a feeling now that he's at home, I think the tide might be turning. I think he started figuring out that he needs to throw Deshaun Jackson last week. And Cleveland has a terrible defense, and it's just a perfect combination, being at home and then having Cleveland come with their woes. So Kirk Cousins, I think, is going to have a really good game in this one. I think this is the one where everybody finally says, this is why I drafted Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he started out slow last year and then killed it like the last remaining game. So he's a good option. My 3 starts are let me rephrase that. My 3 starts are Joe Flacco, Alex Smith, and Blake Bortles. And I'll talk about Bortles playing Indianapolis. Phillip Rivers, for some reason, struggled last week versus Indianapolis, but at the same time, this time Jacksonville's at home. Blake Bortles usually has pretty good games against Indianapolis, running and throwing, and I like him this week, especially against that banged up secondary, especially with Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson and Marquise Lee. He's got weapons. He's got Chris Ivory back, even though he did get banged up, but he still played. He's got weapons now in the backfield and at receiver. So I like, and Julius Thomas. I didn't even mention him. So I really like him against Indianapolis. Who's your starts at running backs?
Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley, and Jeremy Hill. And I'm going to talk about Todd Gurley because we just got done talking about big names. A lot of people are going to be scared of seeing Arizona, especially at home, against Todd Gurley. So a lot of people will probably look at other options. I'm going to go against the grain on that. Arizona's run defense has not been that good. It is a divisional game. Usually these games are always close. I mean, you just look at what happened when it was LA against Seattle. And those are the kind of games that Gurley likes because they're trying to control the clock. So Gurley's going to be having plenty of opportunities. They've been working him also out of the backfield, catching ball screens and stuff like that. So I just think he's going to have a very good game against Arizona.
LaShawn McCoy last week had a great game against them. I was shocked.
Yep.
I had him on my sit list, and it killed me for that reason.
Yep.
Running backs for me, Melvin Gordon, Jeremy Hill, and Cameron Artis-Payne. I'll talk about Gordon. I've had him on my start list a couple weeks, but this time he's facing the Saints. The Saints are last in run defense. You saw last night on the Monday night game, Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman was just killing them, period. And the San Diego Chargers need to run. They're minus Gates still. I'm not sure if he's even going to play this week, but you have to check on that. But just having Gordon back there and no Danny Woodhead, they're just going to be running, and they need to against that Saints team. And there you have it right. They're going to be running and throwing. I think it's going to be another one of those games where the Saints and them are just going to be shooting each other. Basically, it's a shootout. And Melvin Gordon's going to have a lot of yards rushing. Finally, he's going to have a breakout game. I think it's going to be this week. Who's your wide receivers?
Steve Smith, Michael Thomas, and Ted Ginn Jr. Now, I've been talking about Steve Smith. They're playing Oakland Raiders. Raiders also another team that's been very bad against the pass this year. And Steve Smith is starting to come around. He's starting to get more targets. Flacco's starting to trust him again. And I just think that this is the opportunity for him, especially after somebody was talking trash about him last week, where Steve Smith, finally silences the haters that he's back for sure. I think he's going to have a touchdown. He's been getting the targets, and that's going to lead to more yards.
My wide receivers are Jeremy Maclin, Brandon Cooks, and Will Fuller. I'll talk about Brandon Cooks. I just said it. It's going to be a shootout in San Diego. New Orleans and likes to throw their wide receivers. They have like 4 good ones. Willie Snead didn't even play this past week, and they still threw for a lot of yards. Brandon Cooks is going to benefit. I know he might have Jason Verrett all over him, but it doesn't matter. They'll still pass the ball. Drew Brees doesn't care. He throws it to whoever and wherever. So Brandon Cooks, look for him this week. Who's your tight ends?
Julius Thomas, Travis Kelce, and Dennis Pitta. And I'll talk about Pitta. I've been talking a lot about the Baltimore, but Pitta's been a guy also that's been getting a lot of targets from Flacco, and it's always been like that throughout his career. But now that he's healthy, again, somebody that's being targeted a lot, and now they're looking more at him in the red zone too. In Oakland, that's what you're going to be up against because it seems like everybody's been moving the ball against Oakland. So Dennis Pitta, I will start every Baltimore player. I'm not even a Baltimore fan, but it just seems like fantasy-wise, you should be playing them.
For my tight ends, I have Jason Witten, Eric Ebron, and Jimmy Graham. I'll talk about Jason Witten. He's playing the 49ers. 49ers struggled last week against the pass in general with a banged-up Russell Wilson and with a banged-up Doug Baldwin and a banged-up Jimmy Graham who caught a lot of passes. So look for Dak Prescott to get the ball to Witten a lot this week as the 49ers still struggling on defense to figure out how to stop tight ends and wide receivers at this point. They've been giving up a lot of points, and I don't know if that's going to stop this week. We're going to have to see, but they do play better at home, but I think the tight ends still will benefit against that 49ers defense as they don't have really linebackers that can cover tight ends that well.
I'm going to go against you on that one.
Uh-oh. Who's your starts on defense?
Defense, I got Houston, Washington, New England. I'm going to talk about Houston playing Tennessee. I've been trying to give Mariota the benefit of the doubt. It might be a sophomore slump, but against softball defenses, he did nothing. And now he's in Houston on the road against a team that's really good against the pass. He's done. So Houston defense, I think, is going to have a field day with him, especially coming off an embarrassment last week. So Houston's going to look for some revenge, and I think Tennessee is going to be in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, for mine, it's Minnesota going against that good Giant offense. Washington and Detroit. I'm talking about Detroit. They're playing the Bears, playing against Brian Hoyer, who did okay towards garbage time at the end of the game against Dallas, but that was pretty much garbage time points. And Detroit, I think, is going to take advantage. It's a rivalry game again. It's division rivalry, and that defense is going to be ready to play. And like I said, no Cutler. And not that it was going to make any difference anyways if Cutler was in there, but I think Brian Hoyer is actually an upgrade at this point. But still at the same point, Detroit's defense is going to be tough against Chicago. They can't, and they're minus Jeremy Langford as well, who's out for I think 7 weeks or close to it. So let's get into the sit-em portion of the show. Who's your sits at quarterback?
Ryan Fitzpatrick, Marcus Mariota, and Eli Manning. And I'm going to talk about Eli Manning because he's somebody that usually with that offense, Giants offense, somebody that can get you points. But Minnesota's defense, I doubted them last week, and they're the truth. And now they're at home, which they're even more dominant. I mean, they shut down, Cam Newton already. They've already shut down Aaron Rodgers at home. So I don't think Eli Manning is, up there with them in terms of offense. So Eli Manning's going to have a struggle.
Yeah, my sits of the week are Matt Ryan, Eli Manning as well, and Jameis Winston. I'll talk about Ryan. That Carolina defense, despite having rookie corners, I thought they were going to struggle. I thought they were going to have a really rough time against quarterbacks and really rough time against wide receivers, but they have proven to be all over wide receivers. They're actually pretty decent cover corners and playing well within that scheme. And even though Carolina is playing in Atlanta and Atlanta's offense is crazy good, that defense can shut anybody down. And I like Carolina in this game to shut Matt Ryan down. At least when I say shut Matt Ryan down, I mean hold him to less than like the 3 or 4 touchdown passes he's been getting the game. So he might get 1 touchdown pass, but he might throw some interceptions, definitely. Who's your running back starts?
Matt Forte, Latavius Murray, and Christine Michael. And I'm going to talk about Murray. Again, Baltimore, their defense is pretty good actually against a run. And Oakland's a team right now, if you notice, they've been throwing a lot. And then when they do run Murray, he's really frustrated if you have him in your fantasy team because he's somebody that would get you a touchdown and you think, oh, it's going to be a good day. And that's it. He's somebody that you look at the sheets and there's 30 yards and a touchdown. And, that's good sometimes. But the guy that got 90 yards and no touchdown got the same amount of points. So Murray's going to be somebody that's like that. And against Baltimore, they're really good in red zone defenses. So I don't see Murray being a factor.
My sits are Kristen Michael. I have to say his name wrong sometimes. I don't know which one it is. Jamal Charles and Mark Ingram. And I'll talk about Jamal Charles if he plays. If he doesn't play, insert Spencer Ware, because either or, they're not running against Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's been amazing against the run. The problem is they suck against the pass. But they won't be able to run the ball, especially in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is going to be pissed off, especially after that game that they got blown out by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I look for Pittsburgh to really step it up, especially against that Kansas City run offense. Who's your receiver sits?
Sterling Shepard, Tajay Sharp, and Brandon Marshall. I'm going to talk about Shepard because a lot of people are going to have Odell Beckham Jr. probably on their sit list and stuff like that against Minnesota. Shepard is the guy that I'm worried about a little bit. Victor Cruz is starting to come around more. And while I think the whole Giants offense is going to struggle, I think Shepard is kind of taking a back seat in terms of targets. And then, of course, against a defense like Minnesota, that means he's probably going to have maybe 1 or 2 targets. And that's not something you want from somebody you have high hopes for, especially Shepard. Everybody thought he was going to be runaway number 2 at least. And if Odell Beckham is being covered a lot, you would think that means Shepard's going to be the guy that everybody goes to, but it could be Cruz still. So Shepard, I think, is going to be the one that definitely going to sit.
Yeah, I feel bad for that Giants team this weekend. Wide receivers for me are Eric Decker, Mike Evans, and Tavon Austin. And I'll talk about Eric Decker. I know it's a surprise that I have Mike Evans on there because that dude is amazing, but Denver, whatever. Against Denver is just everybody gets shut down. But Eric Decker against the Seahawks. The Seahawks, the LOB, they shut pretty much wide receivers down. That's what they do. And right now, Fitzpatrick was throwing 6 interceptions, although 3 of them were like tip passes. But despite that, he threw a lot of interceptions. He's been a little off. Minus that one game that he did have against the Bills, but it's been an up and down fantasy weird season. But against the Seattle defense, this defense is for real. This defense does not give up a lot of yards. They don't give up, especially against the pass, and it's just hard to beat them. It's hard to score against them, and it's hard to even get open, let alone do anything against them. So I don't see that happening for Eric Decker this week. And if you have Eric Decker, Brandon Marshall, you have anybody pretty much in that Jets backfield, I wouldn't start them. Not this week.
No, not this week. This is going to be. Yeah. What's funny is this is probably going to wind up being like that LA Rams game. It's going to be a 9-6 game.
Yeah. Or watch we say this and the Jets win like 37-3. Eric Decker scores like 3 touchdowns.
Hopefully.
Like that's the kind of game we say these things and we think that might happen, but Eric Decker sits there and he'll probably get like 150 yards receiving. He'll catch over Richard Sherman and they'll say how Richard Sherman is not an elite corner anymore. Oh, yep. I can hear it now. All right, who's your tight end sits?
Jacob Tammy, Jason Witten, and Delaney Walker. And I'm going to talk about Witten since you talked about him on the start against San Francisco. The main reason why is because Dak Prescott is in love with Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley is the guy that's becoming the new Jason Witten, which is the third down, who you're going to throw to when it's third and long. It's always been Witten. In the red zone, who you're going to throw to, well, now he already knows who he's going to be throwing to. It's either going to be Des Bryant or it's going to be Elliott running it in. So the guy that's going to be kind of left out in the targets in that area is going to be Witten because of Beasley. So Witten, I think, is not going to have a good game against San Francisco. It looks like it should be a perfect opportunity for him, but I actually think Beasley's a guy that's going to surprise everybody and have more catches and more everything than Witten.
Could be. You never know. I mean, it could be just be that Witten is upset because his old roomie is, is not on the field and he's hurt. He's heartbroken, All right, for my tight ends, I have Jacob Tammy, Kyle Rudolph, and Rob Gronkowski. And without Tom Brady in the game, the Bills' defense is playing a little bit more improved. They're going to be ready for this game. They need a victory, and New England needs a loss. Do I think New England's going to lose? Probably not. But at the same time, I don't think Rob Gronkowski is going to be the factor. I think their defense is going to be what helps them win. And I'm just not ready yet to see Rob Gronkowski do anything until Brady comes back. That's when he'll probably have his breakout game as usual. Who's your defensive sits?
Indianapolis, San Francisco, and Carolina. So I'm going to talk about why Carolina, you should sit Carolina. I do not trust them against Atlanta at Atlanta. This is a team that for some reason, no matter how bad you think they are or how good they are, they always score against, it seems, New Orleans and Carolina when they're at home. Those are two teams that you can book it all the time. Now, when it comes to Tampa, you would think they'll destroy Tampa at home. That's another story. For some reason, they struggle against them, no matter how bad they are. But Carolina, no matter how good or bad, they always seem to score against Carolina, and I don't think that's going to change at all, especially not where you have Julio Jones, who's been hurt and not even at full speed, and they're still getting all these points. And then on top of that, you have a healthy Coleman, and you have a healthy Freeman, and then you have these other pieces that now all of a sudden looking good. Atlanta actually has a really good offense, and I don't think Carolina's corners are going to be able to shut all of them down. So especially now if all of a sudden Julio Jones decides, you know what, I feel really good at this week. So I don't know. I got a feeling that it's just a defense. It's too risky to start.
Yeah, for me, I have Kansas City, San Diego, and New York Jets, and I'll talk about Kansas City. Kansas City, unfortunately, is like I said, is playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are angry. They were held to 3 points by the Philadelphia Eagles, who are just been a much improved defense, and I just don't. It doesn't bode well for Kansas City, who had a great game against the Jets, but I don't see that happening against Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown and company. And they're going to be their hands full, especially on the road too. Kansas City's a different team at home, but on the road they don't play exactly the same way as they do at home. It's just that home cooking, And in Pittsburgh, it's tough to play.
I was watching that game. I was so furious at that game because it seemed like every single possession the Jets were already in the red zone. So they were so overrated, that Kansas City defense. Now, don't get me wrong. I know they got the 6 interceptions. I can't take that away from them.
Yeah.
And the 8 turnovers. Yeah. But if all those could have easily have been scores, even if it wasn't touchdowns, they could have easily been scores. And all of a sudden, looking up at that score, it would have been a completely different game. But I agree with you. I think
the Jets did move the ball. Yeah, the Jets did move the ball. It was just they couldn't put it in. They couldn't. They just held them. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Well, that does it.
Those last 2-3 interceptions, for sure. He just was chucking them. I think at that point they all gave up. It was hilarious because I saw who was it just took off his helmet in the field, just walked off. The game was still going, and he just left after that interception.
Yeah. Well, that does it for the Stardom Situm Show. Don't forget to leave comments in the comment section if you have any questions or lineup questions and things like that. Feel free to help each other out in the comment section. I keep telling you guys, make sure you be nice to each other. If you think somebody's asking a stupid question, you don't have to tell them they're stupid. Just answer the question and be nice and walk away. Just leave. You know what I mean? Leave your comment and leave. You don't have to leave nasty comments for people or call them stupid. People need help. Everybody needs help in fantasy football. Everybody has different opinions, and just because you feel your opinion is better than somebody else's doesn't make you smarter than somebody. It just, it just makes you feel the way that you feel. Like, you don't have to leave those nasty comments. If you leave them, I'm just going to delete them, so it doesn't matter. It won't be seen, so it just doesn't matter. And once again, we do this show on Tuesdays. The reason why we do this on Tuesdays, we like to put it out before all the big boys, so that way we can't be told that we're copying people, because we're first. We're the ones who bring it out first. Plus, I want to make sure I get it out early for you guys. But in part, when you get out shows like this early, things happen. Injuries happen during the week. There's other things. Players go down. Somebody might get a DUI and be out for the week or get released during that week. Things happen. Things happen during the season, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So make sure you guys pay attention to that. Make sure you guys ask us the questions in the comment section. And make sure you guys do that for us, okay? And that's going to be it. Don't forget to sign up for the DraftKings League, and don't forget to play in the contest. And best of luck in your week 4 fantasy football matchups and games. And don't forget to tweet at us also at JTMagnum_816 and at SiggyV on Twitter. All right? So best of luck, guys, and peace out.